everyone, and welcome to the October Calamel Subscription Kit Box class, or something along those lines. And what I'm going to do is show you how to make this really cute little book, just going through it really quickly. Perfect size for 6 by 4 inch standard photos. We've got a normal, very simple type hidden hinge binding book with the usual sort of flips and flaps that you're going to find inside. We have got pockets, we've got acetate places to put our photos, we have got slit pockets, pull out photo mats, and a bit of a strange sort of folded spine with this absolutely stunning charm from Mel. I think you can see just how gorgeous that is, and it's got little bells on it as well, so it jingles and jangles, and I just absolutely love it. So that's what we're going to be making today. So to start off, out of your kit, what I want you to grab is the piece of chipboard that you've got, and then you've got your craft card. Now, depending on which kit you've had, you might have had some recycled A4 craft card, you might have had some brown card. There was a couple of different ones, and I kind of ran out halfway through of the recycled stuff, which was the one that I wanted, and I couldn't get any more. So you know, don't be surprised if what I'm using today looks a little bit different to maybe what you've got in your kit. The original book used the recycled stuff, so it's all good. So what do we want to do? Well, the first thing that we are going to do is we are going to cut out our chipboard. So what I want you to do is measure and cut, first of all, 2 pieces at 6.5 by 4.5 inches. So let's go 6.5 here. Measure that. And 4.5 inches. And then we'll come and do the spine in a minute. My pen's running out, which is typical. So 4.5 and 9. Right. Let's just cut that first. Okay, now this isn't particularly thick chipboard for a change, but if we do it the same way that I suggest in the past, if you don't press too hard with your knife and make sweeping motions several times, it kind of saves your wrists a bit, so you manage to cut through the chipboard without wrecking your wrists, which I think has to be a good thing. Ooh. And now I'm going to cut that at the 4.5 inches. Now I've cut that because that's going to probably be wide enough for my spine, so I'm really hoping that it will be, because it'll save me the job of lots of measuring out in a minute. So same again. Just to let you know, Mark's not home at the moment, he's out at work, so if there's a disaster with the knife, then I'm probably going to be in more trouble than I care to think about. So for our spine, we want one that is 4.5 by 2 inches. Am I going to do it? Oh, I so am. How good's that? So I'm going to measure that down to 2 inches. And let's just cut that off for my spine. Okay. Right, so that is the covers and spine of my book. So what I want to do now is go ahead and use my bit of Tyvek to put the book together. Now what I'm going to need is I'm just going to cut this down to 4.5 inches. Now if you've not used Tyvek before, this is a sort of a medium that is looks like paper, feels like paper, but is much stronger than paper. It's untearable in theory. I say theory. And you can only cut it with a knife or a blade, but it really helps when we're putting our books together to give strength to the bits that open and close, and also I think it helps when we might use paper that tears a little bit. So here we go. That is my piece of Tyvek, and I'm going to start off by putting the spine on it. So I'm just going to put some wet glue onto the spine of my book, and I'm going to lie that in the middle of my Tyvek like that. You don't have to measure it or anything like that. It doesn't have to be perfect. Now, at this point, I like to use a cutting mat with lines on it, because I find that helps me really line up my covers well. So what I've done is I've lined up the bottom of my spine and Tyvek with that line on the bottom of my cutting mat, because when I come to put the rest of my cover together, it means that I can line it up. So I'm just going to pop a little bit of wet glue onto that bit of Tyvek, and I'm going to take one of my covers and I am going to line it up on those lines so that I can see that this is all straight. But I'm going to leave a little bit of a gap here, about 1/8 of an inch in between my spine and my cover, and that will help it to fold. And I'm going to do exactly the same over here on that side as well. So I'm going to lie that down, make sure that it's straight, line it up there, little bit of a gap, like I said, about 1/8 of an inch, and that is the cover of my book pretty much put together. So now when I fold it, that's going to be the cover of my book like that. Okay, so what we can do now is we can cover the book with the craft card. I started off and actually used craft card and then added my patterned paper to the top of that. So I'm just going to grab a couple of sheets, and this is how I did it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab some double-sided tape, and I'm going to work out where those gaps in my spine are, and I am not putting tape on there because I think that contributes to having papers crack, in my opinion. I mean, it won't matter with this because it's cardstock, but on the whole, it's probably better to leave a gap just in case, because we don't want to give our paper any excuse to crack if that's what it wants to do. So I'm just going to put some double-sided tape there up to where that gap is on my spine. I know where it is there as well, and I'm going to do exactly the same on the other side. Okay, right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this in. I think I might just cut that in half. So English A4 size is 8 1/4 by 11 3/4. So half of 11 3/4 is 5 1/2 and a bit. So we'll go, that looks about halfish, doesn't it? Let's go for that. Totally wrong. Look at that. What a disaster. Never mind. Right, so let's take off some of this double-sided tape. This is the joys of not having any nails. We take off that double-sided tape. There. Normally quicker than this. Definitely haven't got any nails today. Oh, stuck myself to it. Okay, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to lie down a piece of my card, my cover card, and I'm going to lie this on top. Now, I'm not going to take it exactly to the edge. I'm going to leave it just kind of to one side of the spine because we're going to cover the spine separately. So I'm just going to pop that on there like that. Okay, and let's just do the same on the other side as well. Very quiet in here. I've had to do this today while Mark's at work because we've got class tonight and I need to get it done. But normally, I don't know about you, but when I'm crafting, I like to have a bit of noise in the background. So I usually got, I don't know, either my tablet playing some awful documentary or music. But I can't play music because I'd need a license. So I better not do that. I don't want to be in bother for things that I should be doing. Okay, right, so exactly the same on this side. I'm going to take my card and I'm going to lie this down on top, but just over the edge. So it's not actually covering my spine piece at all. So I'm just going to cut this down. Where's my ruler? I just had it. Can anybody tell me where I put it? Here it is. Let's just cut this down a little bit. Now this brown card, if you get this brown card, it's thinner than the Recycle Craft card, but it's not quite as pliable. Right, so I'm just going to miter those corners like that. And I find that when I am covering covers, I like to do the end bits first and get those into place before I come to do the rest. So I'm just folding that over, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my bone folder just to make sure that I've just got the best crease down there. Okay, this card is quite thick, but it'll give you a really sharp edge, so it's all good. Just make sure that you train it, okay, in the way that you want to go. Now, when I'm gluing covers down, I tend to put a little bit of double-sided tape on, just so that that'll hold the bit where I need it to go whilst my wet glue dries. So, take that off. Oh, I can hear a cat. Oh, Ruby. And I'm just, yes, hello. I'm just going to put some wet glue on the end there. We haven't got a door on the craft room. And this is the problem. Where's she? Oh dear, I don't know where she's going. Right, so that's that one, that end done. Let's do this end. We'll glue that down too. So make sure it's stuck really, really well. I'm just going to use my bone folder just to make sure that that is stuck. Now, corners. I like to use my bone folder to really, really feel where those corners are going to be. Oh my God, what's she doing? And we're going to fold these bits over now so that we get a really nice cover. So, first of all, I'm going to train the paper where I want it to go. So I'm just going to fold that up. Oh, Ruby. What the heck are you doing? I wish you could see this from my view. I've now got hairy cat arse going underneath my printer. Anyway, so if I fold that over, that is going to make that corner there really quite bulky. That is not what I want. So let's get my bone folder. I'm just going to make sure that that's in the right place, but I need to get rid of some of this bulk. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my scissors and I'm just going to snip some of that corner off. I wish I got my better scissors. Hang on. Need my really little sharp ones. I'm just going to take off that bulky bit of card there. Like that. So now when I fold that over, I'm going to have lost all of the bulk. I'll just push that in with my nail. It's going to give me a really nice corner there like that. Okay? So I'm going to, once again, a little bit of double-sided tape just to hold that in place whilst my wet glue dries. Fold that over and use my bone folder to make sure that I've got a really, really sharp edge and that the glue is holding everything down and that corner is not bulky. Okay, and I'm going to do that all the way round now. So you can see now that I've got a really nice sharp corner there, and I'm going to do the same all the way round. So I'm just going to snip out that little bit of bulkiness there. Let's just trim that a little bit, push that down, fold that over, make sure that corner's not bulky. A little bit of double-sided tape. And some wet glue. Okay. Okay, so what I've got now, my spine's like that, my book's like that. This is my spine, which we're going to cover in a minute, and I've got two good sharp corners there, and the same inside. Okay, so same again on this side. We're going to trim off some of that bulk. That one's not too bad. That one is bad. I'm just going to trim out that little triangle there. Fold that little bit over there with my nail. Fold these bits over. And just use my bone folder to get a really, really good sharp crease. Okay. Make sure that's in. I'm going to have to take a picture of Ruby in a minute. She's just waiting to pounce, aren't you, cat? You don't look very comfy. Get into that corner, and then finally the same on this side here. Okay. Okay, so that's my good sharp corners that I've got there, and I've got my book up to that point. But what I need to do now is just get some card to cover the spine. So if I now cut a piece that is, say, 4 inches, thank you Ruby, I can use this to cover my spine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop some double-sided tape on the back there, because it's really, really important that these edge bits are stuck down really, really sharply, and they've just got to be spot on to the back of our book. Otherwise we're going to find that we get gaping holes, which isn't ideal at all. So I'm going to put a bead of glue down that edge there. There's some glue down the middle. Now I'm going to lie that down, make sure that it's straight using my mat as a guide, and I'm going to make sure that this goes in the middle but is also straight. So I'm only going to eyeball it because most of this is going to be covered, but it really helps if it's straight. Okay. Oh, there's postman. Right. So what I can do now is just cut this down a little bit because we don't need all of that. And I'm going to fold this up and over like that. Okay. And then the same over this side. Okay. So that is the cover of our book done. Just make sure that that's stuck down really well. Okay, so that's the cover of my book, and I'm going to put that to one side for a moment just to dry whilst we make the hinges. So I'm going to see what the postman's brought me, and I will be right back. Okay, so next of all what we need to do is make our hinges. So grab a piece of your card, and I want you to cut one at 5.5 inches, no, 4.5 inches, just checking, 4.5 inches by 10 inches. Okay, so grab your scoreboard. And now I want you to score at 2 inches, 2.5 inches, 3 inches, 3.25 inches, 3.75 inches, 4.25 inches, 4.5 inches, 5 inches, 5.5 inches, 5.75 inches, 6.25 inches, 6.75 inches, 7 inches, 7.5 inches, and 8 inches. Okay, so that is our hinges all now scored. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hinges and 4/4 inch gussets. Our hinges are at 1/2 inch. Now we need to put it together. So I'm going to explain to you how we're going to fold this. These 2-inch pieces at the end, these are wings, for want of a better description. These are what attach to our book to hold our hinges in place. Where we've got the 1/2 inch marks, that middle bit That is going to be a mounting fold. That is what forms the top of our hinge. Then we've got our 1/4 inch gusset. So imagine we have got, I'm just folding this now, right in the very middle of that first hinge. So this wing, that needs to be folded, so that's going to sit flat on our book. And our hinge is folding those 2 1/2 inch pieces together to make that mounting fold at the top there. And then we've got our valley, which is our gusset, which is just 1/4 inch. So I'm going to fold again in the middle of that hinge there, making sure that what I've got now is 2 inch hinges like that, but in the middle I have got a 1/4 inch gusset. So it might be easier if I put it up like that to show you what it looks like, okay? And I'm going to keep folding all the way along. So I've got my 1/2 inch score marks here. I'm going to fold on the middle one because that's my mounting, and then I'm going to fold to the sides. So that's my hinge with a 1/4 inch gusset in between. So I'm going to fold that middle one again as the mounting with my gussets at the bottom like that. Okay, so now I've got 4 hinges made. So this final hinge, I'm going to fold that up like that. My wing's going to go out like that, and I'm going to have my gusset there. So what I've got here is I have got 5 hinges, each with a 1/4 inch gusset, so 4 gussets, and then on that side there I've got my 2 wings. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just flatten it up a bit, and I'm going to glue it. Once again, same way, I'm going to put a little bit of double-sided tape in the middle of the hinge. The hinge is the one with the 1/2 inch scores. The gussets are the ones with the 1/4 inch score. And this is going to help me glue these hinges together. So I've got my wing. These 2 are my hinges. So I'm going to pop a little bit of wet glue onto that hinge there. And I'm going to fold that back so that my first hinge is stuck down. Well, that's the plan anyway. Okay. So that is my first hinge, and I can use my bone folder to make sure that I get a really good crease, but also that's going to make sure that it is stuck really, really well. Okay, so there's my hinge, folds either way, and it's stuck together now like that. Okay, I'm going to make the next one now. So my hinge here, I've got that 1/4 inch gusset. I'm just going to pop some glue onto that hinge like that, fold it back, make sure that's in place, and my hinge is stuck together. So I'm just going to use my bone folder again just to get a really, really good crease there. So now I've got 2 hinges stuck together with my 1/4 inch gusset in the middle. Same again. Wet glue. Okay, so that's all stuck now. I've got my 3 and the last 2 to do now as well. Let's stick that together. And the last one, a little bit of glue, fold my hinge, and make sure that that's stuck down really well. So what I've got now are my 5 hinges with the 4 gussets in between. Can you see those? And I need them both, I need them to be able to fold each way, so I like to go backwards and forwards with my bone folder just to make sure that they do fold, because that is really important. Okay, right, now here I've got my cover that I made earlier, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make some little marks in there, because that's going to want to bend at some point. But I want to make a mark so I know exactly where the middle of my spine is going to go. I mean my hinges. So I know that's 2 inches. So I'm just going to make a little mark at 1 inch, so that this will help me when I come to put my hinges in. Okay. So those 2 marks that I've made are going to match to the middle hinge here, hinge number 3, so that when I come to put this onto my book like this, hinge number 3 will line up with those 2 marks that I've just made, and that will be our binding system in place. So I can't tell you how important it is that we get this stuck incredibly well down to our spine. This is probably one of the most important bits of this, or any book that you're ever going to make. So I'm going to pop some double-sided tape onto it. Because this will keep it all in place while it dries. And then what I'm going to do is get my wet glue, and I'm going to go round the outside. This bit where the hinges are is so important. We've got to have our the back of the hinges stuck down to the spine so tightly. So important. Okay, so let me just put some glue around there. Let me just make sure I've got plenty to attach that. And now I'm going to add this to the spine of my book, and I'm going to make sure that that middle hinge sits on those 2 marks that I've made. It should fit perfectly top to bottom. And now I'm going to just glue that in place, and it is so important that we get these gussets flat stuck on that spine. So use your bone folder. Oh, I haven't really put that in straight. Use your bone folder to get that into place and stick that down. Keep going backwards and forwards on it, in between your hinges. Get those gussets stuck down really well to your spine. Really important. Okay, there we go. So now what I've got is I've got my hinges stuck to my book. I'm going to keep going for the next 10 minutes or so. I'm just going to keep going back in and just using my bone folder just to make sure that that is stuck down as well as it possibly can be. And I'm going to leave that to dry for as long as possible. And I would say, if you can, overnight is best. Okay, and we'll come back in a bit and we will start to look at our base pages. So what we're going to do now is make our base pages, of which there are 5. So grab 5 sheets of your card, and I want you to cut these all at the same size, which is 6 inches by 9.5 inches. So 6 inches by 9.5 inches. And like I said, there are 5 of those to cut. So 6 inches by 9.5, and keep your offcuts, because you never know, you might need them for making photo mats or just doing little bits of decoration. I've actually used some of the stickers out of the paper line to decorate the front of my book, and I've matted those onto some of the craft card just to give it a bit of extra definition. So you never know when those little bits might come in useful. It might make you some photo mats, they might be good for decorating all sorts of bits. So what I'm going to do now is grab my scoreboard, and these are all scored in exactly the same way. So we're going to score on the 9.5 inch side, which means we're going to put our 9.5 inch bit at the top, and we are going to score at 4.5 inches, and we are going to score at 9 inches, and we're going to do that on all of them. So score on the 9.5 inch side, at 4.5 and at 9 inches. Okay, so 4.5 and 9 inches. Okay. Now to make the page, we're simply going to fold on that 4.5 inch fold mark. Make sure that we get it straight. Going to use our bone folder to get a really nice sharp crease there. And we're going to do exactly the same on the 9 inch score mark, so that we've got a little flap like that, because that's going to make our page for us. So I'm going to use my bone folder to get me a really nice sharp edge. And I can do this one of 2 ways. I can either fold like that and glue that down, or I can take a little bit off this edge and fold underneath. My score line, so it's going to sit like that, which might actually give me a nicer looking page. So I think that's how I'm going to do it. So I'm just going to trim off just a little bit from each of these pages. So I'm trimming where we scored up to 4.5. I'm trimming on that side. I'm not trimming on the 1/2 inch flap. Just a little slither. Not too much. I've forgotten which ones I've done. Which ones have I done? That one and that one. So what I'm going to do now is I folded that like that. I'm going to get my glue onto the inside of that flap there. I'm going to fold that over the top there and glue that down, so that what I've got is a page that opens at both ends. Okay, and I'm going to do that exactly the same process to each of my 5 pages. So fold up there, make sure that it lines up straight with the edges. Use my bone folder to get a really nice sharp crease. Same with that one. Fold that over like that. I'm going to pop some glue onto the inside of that flap there. Fold that over and glue that down. Okay, so I've got a page with 2 open ends, and I'm going to do that to all 5. Come back in a moment. Okay, so my book cover has had plenty of time to dry. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to fold it up so it looks like a book. Now I can feel with my bone folder roughly where my spine ends, and I'm just going to use that as a guide, and I am going to slowly lift that up. If you do it slowly, you're much less likely to tear any card or paper. Now, I'm not worried about the card on this because I don't think that's going to tear for a second, but I just still want to do it gently because, you know, mishaps. So, and I'm going to do exactly the same on the other side. So I'm going to work out where that spine meets the book cover, and just gently, I am going to lift that up and tease that book into place. Now, this is going to take quite some doing because it is not going to want to go where we want it to go, very simply because the card that we're using to cover is quite a lot thicker than we would usually use. So it's going to take a little bit of time to get into place. Anyway, there's my book now. That's folded. I'm happy with that. But now I just need it to kind of just remember that it wants to open and close, and just encourage it to do that. So for now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab a couple of clips just to keep it in place, just so it remembers where I want it to go. And I'm going to clip those together like that, so you can see that's just a way that I'll try and keep it together. And I'm going to put that to one side until I am ready to come and decorate the book. But I do find that that's quite a helpful way to kind of keep the book together and train it to go in the way that I want it to go. Okay. Okay, so what we've got here are our 5 base pages that we have made, and in this book the pages we have 3 the same and 2 the same. So just let me show you. When we open up our book, this page that opens up like that, we have 3 versions of that throughout the book. This is the same here and here. And then we have 2 pages where we've got our removable photo mat there. Okay, so what we're going to do to start with is we're going to concentrate on this page. This is before we come to put it in the book. So what we're going to do is make those 2 flaps that go on there, and then we're going to make this pocket that goes on the back. On the back of this one is a slanted pocket, which we will come to in a moment. So what we need to do first is make the flaps that go on here, because then it'll make it so much easier for us to put it all together. So each of these flaps, and we're going to need 3, they are going to be 6 by 5 inches. So we need to cut 3 at 6 by 5 inches. So 6 by 5 inches. Now I'm going to grab my scoreboard. And I'm going to score these all exactly the same. So I am going to score on the 5-inch side, which means I'm putting the 5 inches at the top of my scoreboard. And I am going to score at 1/2 inch on each of them. So I'm scoring on the 5-inch side, so the 5 inches goes at the top of my board, and I'm going to score at 1/2 inch on all 3. Okay. So now all I need to do is fold over that flap there and just use my bone folder, which I've lost. Here it is. Just to give myself a really good crease on each of them. Okay. Now I'm going to grab 3 of my base pages. Now, when I put my books together, for me, psychologically, there isn't any other reason for this. My flap, where it joins, always goes at the back, which leaves my front bit to be quite flat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of these flaps and I am simply going to glue it on to my page there, because this bit without the flap is the same size as the base page. So I'm going to pop a little bit of glue onto that flap there, and I'm going to attach that flap to the very, very top of my page, and it will fit exactly side to side. Like that. So now I can see I've got my flap on my page like that. Probably would have helped if I'd done it straight. Who needs straight? Okay, so this is my page and that opens up in a flap like that. Okay, now if I want to, I haven't on the original, but I'm going to on this one. I'm going to round the corners of that page there like that. I'm going to do each of these, and then what I'm going to do is I am going to base mat up this bit, and this bit, and that will all use just one sheet of paper. So for example, I'm going to just pop paper on there and paper on there and there. Okay, so at this point that's all we're matting up. Then what we'll do is once we've done all 3 of those, we will come back and we will look at that bit that folds over the top there. Okay, so what I want you to do is put those, put those flaps on and then mat your pages. Okay, and now to make our little flaps that go onto the sides of our pages. So what I've done, just to recap, is with these 3 pages I have matted the front flap and I have matted the insides just like that. So that's page 3, 2 and 1. It doesn't really matter what order they go in, but they're all matted. So what we're going to do now is add the flaps that go round. Now you've got a piece of paper that has got lots of these 3x4 little cards on. Pick 3. It doesn't matter whichever you like, and they're what's going to form our flaps. So these should measure 3x4. Let's just double check. They do. So the way that I'm going to do this is I am going to cut, let's get that out of the way. I am going to cut some of my card, and I am going to cut it so that each piece measures 4 1/8 of an inch. I'm gonna love this. By 3 5/8 of an inch. Because what we're going to do is we're going to put a score line down here at 1/2 inch, and then we're going to be able to mat that on there And then where that score line is, actually it could be that way around, won't it? Where that score line is, that's what's going to fold underneath and hold that little flap together. So just to cut 2 more, I want you to cut them at 4 1/8 of an inch and 3 5/8 of an inch, and you need 3 of those. I'm just using some of my offcuts of card. So 4 1/8 of an inch and 3. That's not going to be wide enough. Typical. Let's see what else I've got. I have to use a new piece. Oh no, I've got 3, haven't I? Have I? No, 2. There's plenty of card anyway in your kits. So 4 1/8 of an inch by 3 5/8 of an inch. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to score each of those on the 3 5/8 of an inch side at 1/2 an inch. So the 3 5/8 of an inch side, score at 1/2 an inch. Fold that over. Just going to grab my bone folder. Make sure I've got a good sharp crease. And now I'm going to add on my 3 what do you call them, cut parts, I suppose. So I'm going to add this on now, and I'm going to glue it so that my flap is on the right hand side. So that's just going to fit on there with just a tiny little bit of an edge round it there. Now in my original I popped a photo mat, a 3x4 inch photo mat on the back of there, but you can put whatever you like on it. You can, there's plenty of pattern paper if you want to use that, or just put a photo straight onto it, whatever you think. I have put some white card in your kits so that if you want to use white card as a photo mat, you know, like I have done, and put like a place photo here, bit in the book, you can do. Or like I said, you can just put a photo straight in there, or there's plenty of patterned paper. Okay, so I've got those 3 now, and I'm going to add them into these. So I need to decide which ones I want with which, because, you know, some look better with others than others. So that's quite nice on there. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some glue on the inside of that flap there. And I am going to insert this into that open end there. Okay, so here's my flap, lift it up, and I'm going to insert that there. Fold that over and just make sure that it's centered top to bottom. Just put that there. Make sure that's in the right place. And I'm just going to glue that down. So that will form a nice little sort of a fold over closure for me, but I've still got that opening there. so that I can put in a photo mat as well. So that's how we make the front of that book, that bit of the book cover. Okay, so a bit of glue on the inside of that there, and I'm going to slip it in there like that. Fold that over, make sure it's centered top to bottom, glue that down. Okay. And then the same on the final one. A little bit of glue on the inside of that flap. Pop that in there. Centre it top to bottom and glue that down. Okay, so that is the front of each of those pages completed. I just need to have something on there, but I can worry about that later. So what I want to do now, before we put these in our book, is I want to do the backs. And on the backs of these, we have a very, very simple pocket. So what I want you to do now is I want you to cut out 3 pieces that are 7 inches. Let's have a look. These are 7 inches by 2.5 inches. So we want 3 that are 7 by 2.5 inches. Okay, so now I'm going to grab my scoreboard and I'm going to just turn these into super simple pockets. To do that, first of all, I am going to score on the 2.5 inch side at 1/2 inch. I'm going to scoot that round 90 degrees, so I'm now scoring on the 7 inch side, and I'm going to score at 1/2 inch, and I'm going to score at 6.5 inches. And I'm going to do that the same on each. So I'm going to score first of all on the 2.5 inch side at 1/2 inch. I'm going to score on the 7 inch side at 1/2 inch and at 6.5 inches. So on the 2.5 inch side at 1/2 inch, and on the 7 inch side at 1/2 inch and 7.5 inches. Okay. So now what I'm going to do with these is I'm going to mitre the corner, and once again, to mitre the corner, I am going to cut into where those 2 score lines intersect, just at an angle, just snip it up to that corner there. And then, so I don't get a bulky corner, I'm going to turn it, my scissors, just a little bit, and I've now got kind of a not exactly straight line. Mel calls this kinky mitering, because we're doing it at a bit of a kink. It's not straight, and the reason that I don't do it straight is because it gives me a flatter pocket when I come to glue it down. So I'm going to snip up into that place where the score lines intersect, just shift my scissors round a bit and make more of an angled cut, and I'm going to do that on all 3. Okay. Now, once I've done that, I'm going to grab my bone folder and I'm going to fold up those flaps to form my pocket. And I'm going to use my bone folder just to make sure that I've got a really good sharp crease, because that's going to make my book look much more professional, and it's going to help me to stick these down somewhat easier. Okay, so that's one pocket. Now I'm going to do the same with the others. Okay, so I've now got my 3 pockets. So I'm going to take the 3 pages that I've already made. I'm going to turn them over, and this pocket is going to fit directly on the very, very bottom of that page there. So I'll put some glue on these folds here, and I'm going to attach that to the very bottom of the back page there. So just grab some glue, pop it onto those flaps like that, and stick it onto the very bottom of that page. Just make sure that you've got it the right way up, because, you know, stranger things have happened. And that's how I make that pocket, which is this one here. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do that on the back of each of these pages, and I'm going to mat up my pocket as well. So a little tip, when I'm matting this back bit here, what I do is I measure just say like ½ an inch longer than that measurement from here to here, and then I tuck it inside that pocket because it gives us a much nicer finish. So you will notice as well, and this is entirely up to you, but what I've done is I've tried to match my pattern papers so that the bottom of the pocket matches that page, which is the one that we'll do next. So once again here I've used this paper to mat the bottom of that. So just have a think when you're putting your books together about what papers you want to use where. Okay, and we'll come back together in a moment. Okay, so now I've got those 3 pages completely matted up. So on the front we've got the bit that flicks up, and then on the back we've got our little pockets, and those are all now matted. So what we need to do is look at our final 2 pages. And these, as you will see, actually hold these little photo mats, which, you know, you can just slip your photo in at the side there. So the first thing that we have to do is actually just mat the pages. So using the papers that you've already been using, so I've got this green for one side and red for the other, I'm just going to simply mat direct. So I'm going to cut this down. Oh, that's already the right size. I think that was 4.5, wasn't it, that depth? Yes, it was. So let's just cut that just under 4.5, and the same with the red. Okay. So I'm now going to mat up the front of my page. That's a little bit too wide. Let's just cut that down a little. Make sure those line up. Honestly, I can't cut straight to save my life. It'll teach me. See if that's any better. Yeah, much more so. So we're just going to straight mat this onto our page. Okay. Right. Okay, so now what we need to do is to make this frame that goes over the top of our matted pieces. So what I want you to do is I want you to cut 2 pieces at 5.5 by, let's have a look, 5 inches. So 2 at 5.5 by 5 inches. Oh, everything's falling on the floor. And we are going to score on the 5-inch side. Yeah, the 5-inch side at 1/2 inch and 4.5 inches. And we're going to do the same on both. So we're going to score on the 5-inch side at 1/2 inch and at 4.5 inches. So before we start folding and burnishing, what I want to do is I want to draw the frame and cut out the frame. So I'm going to work on the back of this and I need to make my aperture. And to do that, I am going to cut a frame that is, let's just say, let's call it 1/2 inch. So I'm going to draw and measure and then cut a frame that is 1/2 inch all the way round. So when I say 1/2 inch all the way round, 1/2 inch in from each side takes me to there. And I'm going to also measure in 1/2 inch down from that score line here. Or you can measure in 1 inch from the edge. It's up to you. It doesn't really matter which way around you do it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut out this aperture. This middle bit here, that needs to be removed. So I'm going to use my knife, which I had earlier and have since lost. Hang on, here it is. Oh. And I'm going to cut that out. Okay. Okay, so I've now got a photo mat with an aperture. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut out a couple of pieces of acetate. So you'll find this in your kit in the bit with the Tyvek and the white card. Oh. So there's my acetate, and I'm just going to cut that at, let me just double check the size. I'm going to cut 2 pieces at 3 3/4 by 5¼ So let's go 5¼ by 3¾ Now, how you attach this to your frame is entirely up to you. You could use glossy accents, I reckon. You can use that red tape, you know, the really super sticky stuff. But basically what we're going to do is we're going to attach this to the inside of our frame like that there, so that when we see on the other side, mine's got cat hairs of course, you won't see the bit that goes inside there. So let me find my tape. I'm going to use some polyester tape if I can find it, which is very, very like the red tape, but I haven't got any of that, so I'm going to use this polyester tape. The trouble is that mine's absolutely smothered in cat hairs, and I'm going to stick my tape right up to the edge. Take off the backing. And I'm going to add in my acetate onto the top without sticking myself to it, which is going to be easier said than done, I think. Well, let's get that in. Oh, for goodness sake. Well, it's going to have to do. Near enough. Well, not really. I'll have to trim those edges off. This is the trouble. I haven't put that at all in straight, and it's going to mess with my edges. Okay, so what I want to do is fold that over. So that is going to form the frame of my photo holder thing. Let me just grab my foam folder, and I'm just going to make that a really good sharp fold. Oh, that's because I've got acetate where I don't want it. Okay, so there's my frame. Now what I need to do is make the frame for the paper that goes over the top. Okay, so what I'm going to do, and this is the easiest way I find to do it, is I'm first of all going to cut out the piece that will fit on there. So if I have a look at the size, this is 5½ by 4 inches. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to cut it ever so slightly smaller, as if I was going to mat it. So 5½, just under 5½. No, just under, what did I say? I've forgotten what I said already. Where's it gone? 4, so just under 4 by just under 5½ inches, and that should fit over the top of there to mat exactly where I want it. Now what I need to do is cut out the aperture again. So I know that that is ½ inch. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to measure on the back of here, and I'm going to measure 3/4 of an inch, because what that's going to do, actually no, I'm going to measure 5/8 of an inch. What that's going to do is give me an overlap so that I won't have the bother of trying to mat the frame and get all complicated measurements, so that I get a gap on the inside as well where I can see the craft card. I don't want that. It's too much like hard work. So I'm just drawing my frame in first, just so I get an idea of where I need to cut. And I'm going to grab my knife and I'm going to cut the aperture out. Okay, so what I've got now is an aperture, and I'm going to just glue that on to there like that. So it gives me a nice tidy edge in the middle, and I've still got my craft card that I can see on the outside. So I'm going to put some glue around the outside there. And I'm just going to pop that into the middle like that there. Okay, and now what I'm going to do with this is I am going to pop it onto my card here. So that is going to sit exactly there. So some glue on those flaps there. And I'm going to centre that into the middle of that page and glue that down. Now I need to do exactly the same with the other one, and then I just need to make a photo mat. So I'll decorate up the other one and then I'll come back to you and show you how to make the pull-out photo mat. Okay, so now we've got our photo mats, our photo frames done. What we need to do now is make the bit where we put the photo on that's going to pop in there, and then we can pull it out. So using some of the white card that you have got in your kit, I want you to cut 2 at 5.5 by 3. Okay. Oh, I've lost my trimmer. Oh, looking at it, honestly. So 2 at 5.5 by 3 inches. And then all I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab odd bits that I've got left over. There's little odd bits of the papers, and I'm going to cut those at 3 inches as well, and then cut them at 1 inch. So 1 inch by 3 inches is a bit tricky on this precision. If it's a bit over, it doesn't matter. So 1 inch by 3 inches, or thereabouts. It's not going to matter if it's not spot on at all. Okay, then we're just going to make this as easy as humanly possible. And what we're going to do is we're going to fold these in half. Oh, I have to take my glasses off for this bit. So fold that in half like that, as well as you can. Probably better than I've just done it. And I'm going to use my bone folder just to get a really good crease along that line. And then all I'm going to do is open it up, pop some glue on both sides of that inside bit, and I'm going to attach it round the end of my photo mat like that. Okay, I'm just going to glue that down, and that's going to form the pull that we use to take our photos out if we want to change them, or if you want to put one on each side. So like here, I've used my place photo here stamp on both sides, so you could put a photo on there as well. So on the subject of that, I'm going to get my stamp, and I am going to stamp right in the middle there. And I'll do, actually I've just done that on the wrong side, haven't I? It needs to be that way around because I'm an idiot. Okay. Oh, I do find this works an awful lot better if I stamp onto something flat, like a piece of chipboard. Makes all the difference. There we go, perfect. So now I'm going to pop that in there like that. So that's my little photo mat in there with the pull to get it out, and the same with this one. I've got a bit of glue stuck on that one. Just open that up and pop that in there like that too. So there we go. So those are my two photo mats. Now on the back, what I've done is what I like to call a slit pocket. It couldn't be easier, and I'm going to show you how to do that now. So what I need to do is choose which papers I'm going to use. Let's just have a look, because I've used the same papers in this one as I did in my original. So let's see what I've used. Okay, so those match up. So that one and that one. Let's have a look, see what I've got here. Typical, I can't find it. I like that plaid one. I like the colours in it. I like the colours in it so much I can't find it. Evidently put it somewhere safe. Here it is. There we go. Okay, so I'm pretty certain it's these two. So what I'm going to do is I'm now going to cut out the bits to mat onto here. So just to double check the sizes, these backs are 6 by 4.5 inches. So just going to cut that just under the 4.5 and just under the 6. See if that fits on there. Yep, do a tiny trim off that bit. I'll just do the same with this. So 4.5 by 6, but just under. Let's fit that. Yeah, okay. So, how do I make this funny little, what I call a slit pocket? So what I've got here, just a couple of photo mats that I've made. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually slit directly into this piece of pattern paper before we put it onto our background. And we're going to make a slit in it that we can just slip photo mats into or cut aparts or whatever. So that's going to be 1.5 inches off the bottom. So I'm going to do this on the back. So this is going to be my front page. Turning it over so that I don't see my marks. I'm going to measure 1.5 inches up from the very bottom. And I'm going to draw myself a line that is 1 inch in from either side. And that line there is where I am going to use my knife to make a slit. So I've drawn it on the back. And I've just used my knife just to make a slit in my paper like that. Okay, I'm going to do the same on this side as well. So I'm going to measure 1.5 inches up from the bottom. And I'm going to measure 1 inch in from either side. And that line is where I'm going to make my slit. So once again, there is my pocket. Now, when I come to glue this down onto the back of my paper here, I have to be quite careful about which bit I'm gluing. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to get myself some double-sided tape. And what I'm going to do with this double-sided tape is first of all get rid of the bit with all the cat hairs on it, and then I am going to tape directly above the slit. So what I've got here is this is the bottom of my slit. Okay, this is the bottom of the page and the bottom of the slit here. But I have put double-sided tape right up to the edge above the slit. Okay, and I'll explain why we're going to do that in a minute. So we need to do that to both pieces. Now, when we lie this down on our page, we need to make sure that this top bit above the slit is stuck really, really tight to the page. But this bottom bit is going to form a pocket. So we need to make sure that we don't stick that down to the page. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a bead of glue around the edge of the bottom of the pocket and then glue all up the top here. Okay, so let me just make sure that I'm putting the right bit on the right page. Where's my red one? Does anybody know where I put my other page? Here it is. So that is going to open up like that. So this one, that's going to go on there. Okay, so I've got my tape, which I'm going to take off now, and I'm going to put some glue on the top of that bit. Okay, all the way along, but I'm going to be very careful about how much glue I put down the bottom. So I'm just putting a bead down there and round, and that means that this bit is then open, which becomes my pocket. So if I lie this down now on top of my page and glue that down, what I've got now is this bit, which is all glued down flat, but this bit is still open so that I can use that as a pocket. And that's what I call a slit pocket. Okay, so I'm going to do exactly the same on the back of this one now. So I've got my double-sided tape. And I'm going to just put some glue along the top of the pocket to put that whole piece glued down. And then I'm just going to put a bead around the bottom and the sides. And glue that down to the page like that. So what I've got again is my slit pocket here. Okay, now I am ready to put these pages into the book. So here's my book. I haven't decorated it yet. We're going to do that in a minute. But the first thing that I need to do is with my hinges, I'm going to mitre them. So I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to snip at an angle each of the hinges all the way up to where they meet the spine of the book. And I'm going to do that on both sides, because this is going to make it a whole heap easier to get our pages in. Okay, so I've mitred those. And now what we're going to do is decide which order we want to put our pages into the book. So I like to start from the back and work my way forward. So let me just put these into order. And I'm going to start off with this page here. Okay, so as you know, we've got these open bits at both ends, and these are the bits that are going to slide onto our hinges, and that's how we're going to attach it to the book, like that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some glue onto both sides of my back hinge like this. Oh, probably not that much glue. I'll wipe it off in a minute. And I'm going to slide, make sure you're sliding the right bit. Don't go and slide this bit in and glue it like that. Otherwise you'll find yourself in a bit of a predicament. I'm going to put that onto my hinge. Slide it, not all the way up to the edge, but I'm going to want to make sure that this sits flat. My page sits flat in my book. And I'm going to just glue that together. And I'm going to make sure that I'm not attaching it all the way up to where the hinge meets the spine, because we'll have a lot of trouble making our page lie flat if we do that. Now, you might find, like me, that you haven't quite got your hinges in 100% straight, but this is the bit where we can cover that and not worry too much about it. So just make sure that your pages are in flat to the book, okay, so that when you open your book, your pages lie flat like that, top to bottom. Okay, then we're going to put in the next page exactly the same way. So some glue onto the hinge, both sides. Take our next page, open that up, slip it onto our hinge, lie it down, make sure that it's flat and straight, and glue that into the book like that. Okay, make sure that you've got it stuck down really well on both sides. Okay, so that's 2 pages into our book now. Next page, glue on both sides of the hinge. Slip in that bit there, lie it down, make sure that it's flat. There we go. And just make sure that that's stuck really well to the hinge. Okay, 2 more pages to go. Just make sure you're putting them in the right way. So glue on both sides of my hinge. Pop that in, line it up, and make sure that it's stuck down on both sides. So what we're doing is we are enclosing both sides of that page, so there's only going to be one opening in it, which is this opening here. So last page now, I'm going to pop on some glue, both sides of the hinge. Pop that in there, line it up and stick that down. So now all of my pages are in my book. Now I'm going to leave it a little while before I do any more because I just want that to settle. So I'm going to go back and make sure that all of my pages are glued in really well. Make sure that they are stuck down. And in a moment, I'm going to come back to you and we're going to look about putting the pockets on the inside of our book, and we'll look about decorating the cover. Okay, we are on the home stretch. So what we've got now is we've got our book with our pages in it, and what I want to do now is add the little pockets into the inside, front and back cover. These are just little side pockets, so I want to do that first of all, and then we are going to have a look at the front cover. So first of all, what I want you to do is I want you to cut two pieces that are 5.5 by something, I don't know, how big should we have them, 5.5 by 3 inches. Okay, so grab your trimmer and cut 2 at 5.5 by 3. Okay, now what we're going to do is just turn these into pockets, and we're going to do that by grabbing our scoreboards, and we're going to first of all score on the 3-inch side at 1/2 inch, scoot it round 90 degrees, and we're scoring on the 5.5 inch side at 1/2 inch and at 5 inches. Let me just check that's the right size, because measuring, yep, that'll do. So we're going to score on the 3-inch side at 1/2 inch, scoot it round 90 degrees, score at 1/2 inch and at 5 inches. So exactly the same way as we did before, what we're going to do is we are going to kinky mitre, because Mel likes that. We are going to kinky mitre up to where those score lines intersect, change the degree of our scissors, and we're going to have not a straight line across, but one with a bit of a kink in it. And we're going to do that on both. Okay, fold those flaps in for a simple pocket, and use your bone folder to get a really sharp crease. Like that. And like that. And now we're going to attach them into our book. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach this with the open side pointing towards the edge of the book. So I'm going to pop some wet glue on my flaps, and I'm going to attach this pocket so that it points, the opening points that way, but I'm not going to attach it exactly to where the spine is, just a little bit away, which means that our book will still be able to open and close quite easily. Okay, so that's the front pocket, and now I'm going to do exactly the same on the back. So I'm going to stick some glue on there like that and attach this here. So now I've done that on both sides, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mat the inside of my book and the outside of the pocket, and I'm going to probably, I'm tempted to add a little bit down here as well, just to, you know, keep that kind of flow going. And once we've done that, I want us to come back and I want us to look at the front cover and that sort of funny little spine thing that we've got going on where we're going to put our charm. So let's get that done and we'll be right back. Ah, ladies, we are at the end, the final stretch. Oh, don't see how badly I've glued that in. So what I've done now is I've just put my pockets in and I've decorated them, and the pages are all in. This is all good. And then my page at the back as well. So what I want to do now is the cover. Now, the cover is a little bit different. It's kind of a little bit curved, but you can still see I've matted inside there. So we need to do this in a particular order. So what we're going to do first is I'm going to mat the spine, then we are going to make this curved spine, and then we are going to put on these front pages. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mat that first and then cut out that piece. So I'm going to do it the same way as I did this one, and I'm going to use this red because this red is actually rather lovely. Let's make sure I've got enough left. Yes, right. So the spine, as I recall, was 2 inches. Yep, so I'm going to cut my first piece just to fit the spine. So that's going to be just under 2 inches. By just under 4.5. And that should fit nicely on there like that, which it does. So while I'm here, I'm going to glue that on. Okay. Let's just centre that and glue that down on my spine. Eesh. Okay, now we need to do the bit that goes over. So we know that that's 4.5 inches, or just under, and I want it to be bigger than 2. So I need to have a 1/2 inch piece here. So I need that, that's automatically 3, and then I'm going to add in another inch to give me the curve. So that is going to be 4 and a just under 4.5 by 3 inches. Okay, this piece here, 3.5 inches. Have I got enough left? Oh well, never mind. I'll make do. So rather than have, if you're going to cut it more like 3.5 inches than 3 inches. So what I'm going to do now is because I've messed mine up, I'm going to score every 1/4 of an inch on the 3 inch side. What you can do is score 1/2 inch on either end, and then score 1/4 of an inch in between. Ooh. Okay, so now I've got all of these 1/4 inch score marks. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fold in those edge pieces. Yours will be 1/2 inch. Mine's only 1/4 of an inch because I cut it too short because I'm an idiot. And now I've got that curve. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue that to there and that to there so that I've still got that curved spine. Can you see? But before I do that, what I found with my charm, because it's heavy, I'm just going to reinforce the back of my spine where I'm going to add the charm. And I'm saying that I'm going to reinforce it. I'm going to use a little bit of Tyvek, which I've lost my Tyvek. It was around somewhere. Ah, here we are. So I'm going to just cut out a little bit of my Tyvek, not huge amounts, just a little bit. And I'm going to glue that onto the back of my spine towards the top in the middle. Okay. So now I'm going to pop some glue onto those end flaps. And I'm going to glue that to the edge. If you can see where I'm gluing it, I'm just gluing it to the very edge of my book. I'm going to centre it top to bottom. It is slightly shorter than the book. That's what we call a design feature. It is deliberate, to be fair. Okay, and then I'm going to curl this end round so that I'm sticking it at the back of the book. But what it's doing, because it's wider than the spine, it's giving me a bit of a curve. Can you see that's round curve there? Okay, so that's how I've put that bit of the spine on. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut the front bits that I'm using, the front and back. So the front of the book is 6.5 by 4.5. So if I just grab my paper, and I quite liked this one. Just cut that bottom bit off. So 6.5, just under, by 4.5, just under. And that is going to give me the front and back of my book. Ooh. No, I'm not going to put that there, it's going to fall off. So just going to glue that on. So let's just add that in to the front of the book like that. Turn my book over. And I'm going to add that into the back. And that, bar the decorating and the inserts, the photo mats, is our book completed. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go over my original and I'm just going to explain to you how I decorated. So So my front page, I've chosen one of the cut aparts and I've matted it onto my craft card. I've used some of my enamel dots, I've used some of the stickers of the sticker sheet, and I have put that onto a piece of chipboard that I had left over just to higher it up. Then what I did was I took those 3 sort of silky autumn leaves that we've got, and I popped those underneath. I just put some glue under and I just popped those underneath there so that they look like they were fanning out. I have taken some of the stickers here, I just cut them in half and I added those underneath my leaves just for a bit of added interest. And what I did here was I took some of the stickers, put them onto the craft card, cut round them, and I've used things like sticker leaves as well here, and I've done the same with a sticker on a what's it there, and then on the back I've just put another one of the stickers. Now with regard to the charm, I took the little charm holder, made a little hole through the Tyvek and through my the curved bit of the spine, popped that in, popped the jaw brads open, and I slipped on this absolutely gorgeous charm. I think this is possibly actually my most favourite charm that Mel's ever made. I just absolutely adore it onto that. So what have I got inside? Inside I've just got a couple of photo mats. I've cut out some of the cut aparts just to add in. These are just very simple photo mats. For example, this one is 6 inches by 3 3/4 inches, okay, and it's just a very simple photo mat that I've made out of my craft card and I've decorated. Here you'll see that I've used a lot of the stickers just to add some interest in when I'm decorating. Over on this side, I've used a couple of my enamel dots just to give a little bit of texture. And when I open up here, this is just an example of something that you can do. I've made some little photo mats, which I've added there, but obviously this is going to fit a 6x4 standard photo mat photo very beautifully. Now, in between each page, I have made another photo mat. And each of these, and you will need 5 of them, measure 6 by 4 inches. So that is the size of a standard photo, and that slips in between each of the pages. Here, what I've done with this pocket, I've just added a sticker. I've taken some of the cut aparts, cut them down, and I've made some little photo mats as well, and I've added some of the stickers in just for a bit of interest. But how you decorate this book now is entirely up to you. We've done the base. It's over to you now to make it your own. Put a little sticker on there. Once again, the photo mat that I said that was 6 by 4 inches, that goes between every page. Pardon me. And then what I've done here on my slit pocket is I've used one of the stickers straight across there. I've fussy cut some of the design paper here and here. These are both parts of the design paper. I've added some of the stickers, and I have made some little photo mats which have then slipped into that slit pocket there. Once again, here where I can, I've used some of my enamel dots, and I've made it very simple to put photos there. And once again, there is the photo mat in between that page. Here, stickers on the pocket, more photo mats and cut aparts. You've got plenty of paper in the kit to use. You've got huge amounts of the craft card as well to use, so don't worry about making your photo mats. There's loads of room. Sticker here, once again the photo mat that goes between the pages, and then in the slit pocket we've got a couple of little photo mats that just go in there. We've got some more of the stickers. I've used one of the stickers across there, and then that's part of one of the design sheets that I've taken off. Here, finally, nothing you haven't seen before. We've got the photo mat, as I mentioned, 6 by 4 inches. And then the back of our last page, we've got some more of our photo mats here, cut aparts, a little sticker down there. And then finally on the back page here, a cut apart and a photo mat. So dead easy to do. I hope you've enjoyed making this book with me. It turned out rather more substantial than I originally intended. I think it's a great little book, and it's turned out really, really well. So I hope you've enjoyed putting it together. If you've got any questions, you know where I am. Please do put the books, when you've made them, into Paper Scissors Story, and feel free to share them in any of the groups you're in. I'm always grateful if you can link back to me though, because that's great. But enjoy, ladies, and I will see you very soon for the December sub box kit, where we will be using Stamperia Make-A-Wish paper. And a little bit of news, next year Mel and I are working on a sub box a month, if you wish to partake in that, and we have some great paper choices lined up, bright, colourful, all sorts of different styles, so we hope that you'll be able to join us over the next year or so. So thanks again for joining me, and I'll see you all really soon. Bye.